Yeah. All right, we're back in Senate Judiciary. We have Jennifer Pullman from the Center for Crime Victim Services do their budget presentation, and the floor is all yours, Jen.
Good morning. Thank you, Senators. I appreciate your time to hear about the Center's budget request. For the record, I'm Jennifer Pullman. I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services. I'll be very brief, not certainly to appreciate the time that this committee has offered, but also that our small ask is currently completely in the version of the appropriations bill that passed the House. We have no additional asks of the Senate or of this committee or of Senate appropriations. But I will give context to our ask, which thus far has been recommended. I want to turn your attention, it should be on your committee page, to the budget overview. That's the one that is the most informative. That's the one that has the pretty green on the sides. That one will be brief and to the point in terms of what we do, and because I'm not going to go over all of that. But just a quick reminder, I think most of you are familiar with the fact that we are a quasi-state agency that's established under 13 VSA 5361. By quasi-state, that means we are a state agency with no state employees. And that has a significant impact on the ask that we have made to this body. We also have several responsibilities established within 13 VSA 5361 and throughout Title 13. So we are directed by the legislature to do many things, and we could also do things that are outside of that realm. As far as the three areas I want to focus on for purposes of an appropriations conversation and budget, want to note that we administer the state mandated victim compensation program under 13 VSA 5361 and several statutes throughout Title 13. The Vermont Restitution Unit, the State of Vermont Restitution Unit, again named in 5362, but in other statutes throughout. And one of our other significant responsibilities that also will provide context for our ask is that we administer federal grants, state general fund, and state special fund grants to victim services programs. We have 60 individual sub-grantees that we provide support, but also 260 individual sub-grants. So among those sub-grantees, some may be receiving multiple different funding sources from different areas. All of those require responsibility from us, both to the federal government and to the state government in terms of providing oversight, reporting, administration, and technical assistance to on each grant and to each sub-grantee. The vast majority of the center's funding, as you might see on page 2 of the overview, comes from state administrative support that we receive from special funds and federal funds. We receive less than $1.7 million in general funds as a state agency, but it's very important to realize that of that 1.7 million, the vast majority of that money is straight pass through out to community organizations. Most of which goes to the network programs, and some of which goes to prosecutorial positions that specialize in working with vulnerable victims, particularly domestic and sexual violence. So 1.7 million is not a lot for a state agency, but when you consider that well over $1 million of that, the center only has about $300,000 for its own operation and support. It really helps to underscore the concern that we have for the health of our organization. Normally, as you see, most of our funding comes from the federal government. However, that is shrinking because grants are going away and grants are going down from the federal government. VOCA, the Victims of Crime Act funds that used to be over $6 million are now under $3 million. And what that means is we have a lot less for our administrative support. By that, I mean with federal grants, we are able to typically take 5% of that grant award to provide support for our administration. However, that the state general funds that we provide, as well as the special funds through the DVSV fund, are straight pass-through. So that's $2 million in funds that we do not take any administrative support to administer. I know that you all have maybe heard, or you will hear, I know Senator Norris has heard that about the impact of increased health insurance, rents, and IT costs on the budgets of other state agencies. One of the downfalls about being this quasi-state agency is that we can't join in with other state agencies in terms of taking advantage of a larger pool, for example, to get cheaper rates in terms of health insurance or IT costs. We have basically been told, since we are not state employees, we have to go it on their own. So as a small agency of 19 people, 2 of whom are part-time, that relies on up and down federal funding primarily, it is incredibly, almost impossible for us to absorb these costs on our own because we have to find our own insurance, find our own IT provider, and we can't take advantage of those efficiencies. We have done everything we can to mitigate our costs. We, at one time, the center had 29 positions. We again now have 19, only two of whom are part-time. And I know from stepping into this role that my position has basically absorbed 4 other positions to do what I'm trying to accomplish on a daily basis. We cannot absorb these increases without help, and we cannot continue to work for free. The work in terms of the grant administration is very challenging and very difficult. Again, there's currently $2 million that we provide to our subgrantees that we receive no support to do so. The backdrop, again, that's making this more challenging, and I mentioned this, is that we don't have that default to the federal funds anymore in the way that we did. All the ARPA grants are gone, and we are again relying on the few grants we have left are shrinking. So we've tried every option to save our funds. We've tried every option to protect ourselves. We're not filling positions, but we just don't feel that we can continue to do that. So what our ask was, and what you will see in the House budget, we asked, as all state agencies do, for the 3% increase in our base that state agencies generally receive. Some receive a lot more. That amount for us was $49,502.73. That started out in the governor's recommend. We also asked for $100,000 to be added to our base to support our administration of the $2 million in state special and general funds that we provide to the state of Vermont programs. That would represent a 5% administrative support. We have been told that we could ask for 10%, but we understand the climate, and we would be very, very happy to receive the 5%. So that was the $100,000 that has been included in the budget as passed the House. So today, all we're asking for is that the minor ask from the center as passed the House is retained.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And just so that I have it clear in my head as we write up this letter, your ask is the text that is just in the green box on page 4, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
That is it, and it, as I said, it's in the House budget. And our ask was considered a top tier ask by House Judiciary. So we hope that this will be retained in the Senate.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Jennifer? Senator Norris?
I have one. Good morning, Jennifer.
Morning.
I thought we had a discussion last year, and I'm not asking for an answer today online, in reference to a lot of your special funds as far as the search period for particular offenses and marriage licenses. And I thought you had originally informed me that you had some ideas, the wheels were spinning. I don't think we ever followed up on that conversation. And if you do have some ideas, if you could at least email them to me, I think that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and I could certainly answer those that right now. One idea that I think I've been raising for a couple of years, which is that our state really look at again, I philosophically feel that there needs to be an investment in victim services. I don't feel we should be funding it on the back of those who have caused harm. That being said, if we're keeping the surcharge system, another state, for example, Hawaii, has a priority of payment in terms of how the surcharges are paid out. And what was really interesting in the JFO report that was released in 2022 was that while our special funds, and by our special funds, I mean the ones that we administer, the Comp Special Fund, Restitution Special Fund, and DVSB Fund, all have been in consistent decline. During that time, the SIU Special Fund doubled. And so I started asking, I asked JFO, how is that possible? And then I asked the courts, do you know how the surcharges are collected? And I was told they don't know, they just hand it to a collection agency. And I think it's really important in terms of the looking at who receives the funds, but also who is paying them. I know our restitution unit gets very confused calls from those who owe restitution to say, I thought I paid that. And that they're like, no, that was your supervision fee to DOC. I thought I paid that. So I think we really need to work on that. Again, I know Hawaii has an order of priority and it has victim services at the top versus funding other state agencies. There's a public defender fund. Again, there's the DOC supervision fund. There's the court technology fund. There's a lot of special funds that exist that those who've been convicted of crime are paying into. And I think an analysis of that, because I know there's a reluctance to continue to raise fees and fines, to continue to find other, ways to put fees on other things. But I think if we look at our structure, I think that will really help to streamline pieces, identify priorities, make it easier for the recipients of the special funds and also for those who have to pay into them.
Well, hopefully we can have that conversation.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, so now we have the budget discussion slated for later today at 11:30. Emery is working on sort of draft letter that includes the asks from the entities that we've heard from throughout the segment, including going back to the HRC when they testified at the and also presented their budget. So I think it will make more sense for us to have a budget discussion tomorrow when we have the letter in front of us that has all of the asks on it, rather than trying to draw from our piles of notes and PowerPoints from both of the organizations. So we might do some shuffling around for tomorrow so we can have at least an hour allocated for the committee budget discussion. And then once we make our changes and decide on our priorities, we'll make sure the letter is written up in a way that reflects what we've come to agree to. And then I'll make sure that the Senate appropriations tomorrow. We do have 66 and about probably 15 minutes. I think Michelle is going to be a few minutes late. Mark up possible vote, and then at 11 we'll have witness testimony on possible vote on 410. If we could, Emery, if we could also add, since we're removing committee budget discussion, we could add markup and a possible vote on 744 for 11:30. That's the bill related to procedures for release after arrest. It's the bill we heard from Judge Treadwell on, as well as Representative Lalonde. It's a small technical change. We have it slated for a vote next week, but it's a single page answer. Basically, shall versus may. So I think we can handle that today. Any questions or comments? All right.
Facial comment?
I have facial comment, yeah.
All right, we can adjourn until, we'll just give it till 10:35.